So we got some brand new rumors for Spider-Man 4, but it does kind of seem like we're always getting new rumors for Spider-Man 4. Daredevil, Ghost Rider, Mephisto, Knull the Symbiote got Venom, other symbiotes, RDJ's Doctor Doom, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and more have been rumored for this film. And what's more, many of the rumors come from incredibly reliable sources, which makes this situation like even more confused. Lucky for us, these new reports do actually give a lot of clarity to the entire situation. And because I've been following this thing very closely, I think I can help you understand what's going on. So in this video, I will use the powers of being a lifelong nerd and following Marvel Studios as a friggin' job for almost a decade to explain how all of the rumors for Spider-Man 4 will fit together. Now, the first thing you need to realize in order to process all of these Spider-Man 4 rumors is the rumored ending for Avengers Doomsday. I know it might seem crazy to speculate on the ending of that movie, but it's important to keep in mind that just like in Infinity War and Endgame, we basically know the villain is going to win in part 1 and then lose in part 2. Just like Thanos beats the Avengers in Infinity War, and that sets up their avenging in Endgame, Doomsday will show Doctor Doom winning to set up the avenging in Secret Wars. But it's how Doctor Doom will win in Doomsday that sets up the weirdness of the Spider-Man 4 rumors. Doctor Doom is rumored to create a new universe. That's what he wants. A new universe that he can more easily control. And it also kind of seems like there won't be a multiverse. There have been a combination of rumors that have led me to believe that Doctor Doom only wants one universe and no other universes, if for no other reason than to prevent incursions from happening and another collapse of the multiverse. Therefore, Spider-Man 4, which is confirmed to take place after Doomsday, but before Secret Wars, will have to be set in this new universe. This new universe is the key to understanding how all of these Spider-Man 4 rumors can work together, but there are still, of course, questions as to how all of these different things could be in one movie. But now let's move on to the new report, which actually does give us a lot of clarity here as to what's going on. This comes from one of the most reliable scoopers in our space, the Cosmic Circus. And according to them, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield will have major roles in Spider-Man 4. Their roles in this movie will be even bigger than what they had in Spider-Man No Way Home. On a side note here, it's kind of crazy when you really consider that Tobey and Andrew only had about 15 minutes of screen time in No Way Home. Like, it seems like a lot more in my brain, but if you actually go back and calculate or look it up online, it was only about 15 minutes of that entire movie. So we can expect a lot more of them in Spider-Man 4, and they're probably going to have a much bigger role in the story. So how could this happen? Well, it has to do with this new universe. It's possible that other characters from other universes end up in this new universe. This would resemble what Jonathan Hickman did in the Secret Wars comic book, where Doctor Doom took a whole bunch of heroes and villains from different universes and smashed them all together to create Battle World. Now imagine RDJ's Doctor Doom does that, but instead of putting them all on one planet like in the comics, he puts them all into parts of the universe. Maybe some of those heroes and villains do end up on Earth in this new universe. And perhaps Tobey and Andrew are just on Earth and they seek out Tom Holland's Peter Parker during the events of the film. Or if they're on another planet or another part of the universe, they eventually make their way to Earth to work with Tom Holland. Because it's also possible that Andrew and Tobey were saved from their dying universes. This is also something that's done in the Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars comic book, and it's also something that was set up in Deadpool and Wolverine. Remember, Deadpool's universe was dying, but he was saved and pulled out of his dying universe, and then he was going to be brought into the sacred timeline. So Alex is saying that Tobey and Andrew are back in a major way, and when you look at the Secret Wars comic book and the rumors of Doomsday, there's a couple of different ways that that could work. But let's now read the exact quote from the article that Alex put out, because there's a lot of clarity in here. So the quote says this: "But I'll tell you this about Knull. I still believe we're going to see him in Spider-Man 4. Too many pieces are falling into place at the same time." While we're on the subject matter of the end game for Spider-Man 4, a lot has clearly transpired over the past few days or weeks when it comes to what the plot of this film is. Doom, Mephisto, Ghost Rider, Knull, Venom, Daredevil, etc. We need to focus on the primary fact that while I can trust my sources and trust my reporting, many of those of you reading won't believe it until either the studio or trade confirms it. It could be all of those or it could be none. What I can tell you is what I've been told from my sources. And what I have been told is that both Marvel and Sony want this film in particular together to be a team-up movie in the way that Marvel produced Deadpool and Wolverine, and that the end goal here is to recapture that same magic and team-up dynamic, but switch out Deadpool and Fox for Spider-Man and Sony. Based on that, plus the multiverse setting that this film has, it is reasonable to assume that out of all of the possible team-up options, Tom Hardy's Venom is the most likely option. Between him, Charlie Cox's Daredevil, and other characters. Therefore, having these two characters interact likely points to the inclusion of Knull as the final antagonist for these characters. Not to mention, two of the trusted sources I have told me they're planning on bringing back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield for larger participation than they had in No Way Home. As for Mephisto and Ghost Rider, I will admit this information is indeed new to me, as I expected him to appear in Avengers Doomsday, given the inspiration for Avengers Forever for that storyline. But him having a fixation on Spider-Man shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone, especially after the notorious One More Day comic book storyline. So there's a lot in there. Let's unpack it. Firstly, Alex acknowledges that things are changing behind the scenes and that the rumor of Ghost Rider and Mephisto has thrown him off a bit. Alex thought that these two characters were going to be in Avengers Doomsday or potentially in Secret Wars, but he notes the One More Day comic book storyline, which saw Peter Parker make a deal with Mephisto and make a change to reality as a possible explanation for this. I also just think it could be as simple as they're in Doomsday and they're also in Spider-Man 4. Alex has also pointed to other interesting hints about Ghost Rider and Mephisto, including the Production Weekly leak that said the movie would be called One More Day, and the production company that the film is shooting under being named Blaze, which is likely a fun tease towards Johnny Blaze. So it's not that Alex is saying Mephisto and Ghost Rider aren't in the movie, but he's saying those rumors are new to him and would likely indicate that some major changes have happened to the Spider-Man 4 script. Alex also points out that out of all of the rumor characters that are supposed to show up in Spider-Man 4, Venom, Tobey, and Andrew make the most sense because Sony is still involved in Spider-Man 4, and they have been trying to set up the connection between Venom and Tom Holland's Spider-Man for years. There's also this really cool parallel to Deadpool and Wolverine, which Alex says is the inspiration for the feeling Spider-Man 4 is going after. They want a nostalgic team up like Deadpool and Wolverine had with X-23 and Gambit and Blade and Elektra. And if you swap Sony out for Fox, it really explains Tobey and Andrew and Tom Hardy's Venom being a big part of that. This probably explains how Daredevil shows up too, as Marvel Studios had originally wanted Spider-Man 4 to be about Daredevil and Spider-Man. This was going to spin out of Daredevil Born Again, which would be about Wilson Fisk being the mayor of New York City and outlawing vigilantes. And the rumors are that Marvel still wants to do this, but they might now save it for after the multiversal saga. And because that was a plan in a Sony movie, because remember, all the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies are technically Sony movies that happen to take place in the MCU. So it just makes sense they would also want Daredevil in there to potentially set up that friendship that then would carry over into the next Spider-Man movie. And that all kind of leads us to Knull the Symbiote God, who Alex is still reporting will be in Spider-Man 4. And I guess this makes sense, especially when you consider the setup in Venom 3, but he's one of the hardest pieces of this entire puzzle to put together. I suppose it's possible that Knull is the main villain of the film and RDJ's Doctor Doom is somehow still the main bad guy of the overall new universe. I honestly don't love this, as I feel it undercuts Knull a bit to be a lackey for RDJ Doctor Doom, but that's one way I could see this working. It's also possible Knull is some abstract aspect of the universe that Doctor Doom can't actually do away with. Maybe RDJ's Doom makes Knull more powerful when he consolidates the multiverse, and therefore Knull is more of an immediate threat to Earth, and potentially even something that Doctor Doom didn't even plan for, right? Doom just makes this new universe and he doesn't do it perfectly, and so all of a sudden Knull becomes more powerful and is about to destroy Earth. Another really interesting possibility is that Knull serves as a buffer to Doctor Doom. There's some stuff in Venom 3 that talks about Knull as a god that exists in the space in between universes. We've also recently seen a deleted scene from Venom 3 that explored Venom being stuck in the space between two universes. Reportedly, that scene was cut because Marvel Studios has a different idea for how to explain this concept in Spider-Man 4. That all implies that Marvel has a plan and an explanation for what is happening in between universes and with universes as they all collapse. Maybe in Doctor Doom's new universe, Knull will exist as a barrier around Earth that prevents heroes from leaving to where Doctor Doom is actually residing. This would be kind of similar to when Knull came to Earth in Marvel Comics and surrounded the entire planet with a big old symbiote. Now, I do want to mention that I've talked to a couple very reliable people that have thrown major cold water on Alex Perez's Knull as the villain scoop. I'm not sure what to make of this because Alex has one of the best track records in this entire scooping community, but it's not a flawless record. He's gotten stuff wrong before, and so maybe this Knull thing is just something that he's getting wrong. I think the most accurate thing to say here is that Sony definitely wants Knull to be involved in Spider-Man 4, but it's hard to know if that is something Kevin Feige will go along with. Maybe Knull will be the main villain of Spider-Man 4, but it's one of the trickiest things to figure out. I almost feel like this could be similar to Daredevil in Spider-Man 4, because at one time, this movie was going to be like all about Daredevil and Spider-Man and maybe fighting against Kingpin. And now that has changed, but they still want Daredevil involved. So maybe Knull at one time was the big bad, and now he's just going to be a part of the movie. But now let's talk about Jeff Snyder's recent scoop about Mephisto and my idea of Ghost Rider being in the film. Now, this one is wild because I heard some people a couple of weeks ago say that Mephisto was in Spider-Man 4. And that same person told me that Ghost Rider was in Spider-Man 4. And they heavily hinted that Keanu Reeves would actually play Johnny Blaze in the MCU. But you see, there's something actually massive that Alex Perez just revealed about the Spider-Man 4 movie that actually makes me think it could be Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider. You see, a lot of us just believe that Ghost Rider was actually tied up with the Fox rights, and I think that's because it did eventually go over to Fox, but the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movies were actually produced by Columbia Pictures, which was a branch of Sony. So technically speaking, Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider was a Sony Marvel character. So basically it seems like because the Nick Cage Ghost Rider movies were technically Sony films and Sony had the rights to Ghost Rider at that time, that Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider would perfectly fit in with Tobey, Andrew, and Tom Hardy's Venom to capture that sort of Deadpool and Wolverine feel, but with all Sony characters. So I guess that kind of throws cold water on what I heard about Keanu Reeves, but maybe Keanu Reeves is coming to the MCU in a different role, or they're going to cast a new Ghost Rider as well as bringing back Nicolas Cage. But let's go back to Jeff Snyder's initial report about Mephisto, because in his first write-up on the newsletter, he thought that maybe the plot of Spider-Man 4 would be Spider-Man versus the devil. But then the following day, when he was on the Hot Mic podcast with John Roque, he seemed to walk that back a bit and say maybe it's not actually Spider-Man versus the devil. And in that same podcast, he did mention that other symbiotes were going to be involved as well. I interpret this to mean that Jeff was likely given context after scooping this. I almost think Jeff might have been told that Knull was actually the villain, and that's why he mentions the symbiotes and sort of walks back the whole devil versus Spider-Man thing. Admittedly, there's a lot of speculation going on here. I'm reading the situation. But something I like to do is look at what other reliable people say within this space and try to figure out what are they all saying and how could what they are saying fit together. But if Ghost Rider and Mephisto are a part of this movie, I can see this going down one of two ways. Either Mephisto and Ghost Rider are antagonists to Peter Parker, or they are antagonists to Doctor Doom. And the fact that Ghost Rider might team up with all of these Sony Spider people really makes me think that they will be antagonists to Doctor Doom, or potentially to Knull, who's the main villain of the film. Remember that the rumors for Doomsday say that Doom will win and create a new universe. Well, maybe Mephisto doesn't like what's going on in this new Doomverse, and maybe he then gets the Ghost Rider to help out the Spider Boys to try to stop Doctor Doom and get the old universe back. Because I believe Doctor Doom is essentially the villain of Spider-Man 4. He's rumored to have an appearance in this film, which I think is going to be at the end to potentially set up Secret Wars, or Doctor Doom will just be everywhere in the movie and this new universe will worship him like he's a god. Like maybe instead of churches, we have like the Church of Doom and everybody's just worshiping Doom. But there is another rumor of Doctor Doom having proxy figures or lieutenants in a similar way that Thanos had in the Infinity War films with the Black Order members. And a lot of people have speculated that just like Doctor Doom in the comics had different barons and dukes that worked for him that sort of ruled over Battleworld, there will probably be other multiversal characters that the RDJ Doctor Doom has as his lieutenant. So again, I believe that Doctor Doom is essentially the real villain of Spider-Man 4. He may have proxy figures as his representative, the way that Thanos used Loki or Ronan or the Black Order, but the real baddie will be Doom. Perhaps Knull will be that proxy, or perhaps it's Mephisto. Or maybe it's King Thanos, Maestro Hulk, or any other of the insane characters that we've heard rumored for the next two Avengers films. So that's how all these rumors fit together, and the most recent reports and clarification by some of the best people in the scooping community. Remember, these are just rumors, and we also know for sure that the script for Spider-Man 4 is still being worked on. I mean, Tom Holland himself literally just admitted that a couple of weeks ago. So let me know what you think about these different rumors in the comment section below. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.